Hey guys, tonight we sail straight into the heart of the Pacific Ocean, not on a cruise ship, not even on a decent boat. Really, you're aboard a modest, beat-up fishing vessel off the coast of Mexico, and things are about to go very wrong. The stars are out, the breeze is calm, and your crew of 5 has just set out to sea, expecting a few weeks of fishing. Nothing fancy, just your typical plan: catch some sharks, sell them, and get home in time to not miss another birthday. But then, a storm starts to gather on the horizon. At first, you barely notice it. A little wind, maybe some chop in the water. No big deal. You've seen worse, except this time, it's not just a storm. It's a freak squall that slams into your boat like a cosmic sucker punch. You don't even get to brace for impact. One minute, you're standing at the helm. The next, you're clawing to keep your balance as waves the size of buildings crash over the bow. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and what time it is where you're watching. I always love seeing how far we stretch across the globe. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The boat takes on water faster than you can bucket it out. Equipment is ripped from its moorings. Your radio gone, the motor dead. One of the men, Ezekiel, the youngest, vomits over the side, overwhelmed by the motion and fear. You cling to the railings, gripping so hard your palms burn. The storm howls with that metallic whistle that only happens when nature is trying to kill you with style. It's like the ocean has grown teeth. By some mad scramble, you and one other guy, Alvarenga, manage to launch the fiberglass fishing skiff you tow behind the boat. It's small, just about 7 meters, and barely seaworthy for anything longer than a day trip. Still, it's floating, and that's more than can be said for your mothership, which now groans, lurches, and finally disappears beneath the surface, gone in minutes. You're left floating in open water with a bucket, a few knives, and no working motor or oars. The two of you scan the horizon for land, but there's nothing, just water, endless and glittering under the post-storm sunlight that stabs at your salt-encrusted eyes. So you wait. Surely someone will come looking. Right, a plane, another fishing boat, after all. You filed a plan. You were expected back, but no one comes that day, or the next, or the one after that. By day 3, you're painfully aware of how thirsty you are. Salt water is all around you, but drinking it would be like sipping poison. Your mouth feels like it's been lined with sandpaper, your tongue swollen. You begin collecting rainwater with anything that holds a curve, a torn tarp, even your shirt stretched like a funnel. That first rain is like divine intervention, arriving with thunderclouds and a sprinkle that feels like holy water on your blistered skin. Food is another problem. No canned goods. No cooler of snacks, just the occasional flying fish that literally flings itself into the boat, like some slapstick miracle. You eat them raw, scales and all, sushi, but without the ambiance. One time you even managed to catch a small shark with your bare hands and a rope. The victory feels primal. You gut it with a dull knife, eating the flesh, drying some on the boat's rail under the searing sun. Historians still argue whether this kind of raw survival instinct is something all humans possess, or if it belongs to a rare few who can quiet their panic long enough to act. All you know is you're alive, sunburned, shaking, hungry but alive. At night, the sea changes again. It's silent, glassy. The stars above seem way too close, like you could pluck them out of the sky if your arms weren't so heavy. One night, phosphorescent plankton glow around your boat like a bioluminescent dream. You wave your hand in the water and it glitters like magic. It's almost beautiful almost, but you'd trade the view in a heartbeat for dry socks. Here's a quirky little fact for you ancient Polynesian navigators. Used cloud shapes, bird patterns, and even wave reflections to find islands. You try spotting anything that doesn't move like water. Your eyes play tricks, turning distant clouds into ships, birds into helicopters, but no rescue comes. By day 10, you start naming the fish, not as food, but as friends. That fat red snapper, he's Larry. Larry visits in the mornings. You talk to him now, totally normal. Your skin starts to peel from too much sun. Saltwater sores form on your legs. The smell in the boat, it's like a half-rotted seafood market mixed with old gym socks. And still, the days march on, emotionally. You and your companion fluctuate between grim determination and desperate prayer. You begin to barter with the universe. Just let someone find us. You whisper into the waves. Just once, I'll change, I swear. But the ocean doesn't answer. One afternoon, you see a plane, a dot in the sky. You jump up, waving a red shirt like a maniac. Your voice cracks from screaming. You think they've seen you. You know they must have. But the dot keeps going, shrinking, disappearing into the clouds like you never existed. And then, as if the universe couldn't resist a little dramatic flare, the wind dies. Your tiny boat now drifts without aim. You stare into the horizon, endlessly. Time becomes waterlogged. Is it Tuesday, July? Who knows you've entered survival purgatory? But your worst days are still ahead, and not all of you will see the other side. The ocean's rhythm becomes your calendar. Mornings begin not with a sunrise, but with the shriek of gulls that circle and vanish just as quickly, like they're toying with you. You wake up drenched in dew, your skin tacky with salt. Everything smells like fish and fear. The boat rocks lazily now, not from waves, but from your own weight shifting back and forth as you attempt to sit, sleep, scrape, and survive in this 7-meter coffin. Food, it dominates every waking moment. You dream of it, talk about it, invent elaborate meals in your mind, enchiladas, steak, a cold can of Coke dripping with condensation. Instead, you suck the juice out of tiny fish livers and chew raw seabird meat so tough it feels like jerky forged in hell. Your hands are slick with fish oils and blistered from sun and salt. You've long stopped caring. Rainwater is your lifeline. Every dark cloud on the horizon brings not dread but hope. You hold out your cracked palms, mouth open to the sky like a child, as if the clouds might show mercy. When it doesn't rain for days, you debate drinking turtle blood. Yes, turtle blood. Sailors have done it before it's in survival manuals. You tell yourself that, and yet, when a turtle actually bumps against your hull one day, you hesitate. It blinks at you, paddling slowly, like it's in no rush to die. You kill it anyway. The meat is rubbery. The blood tastes like iron and mud, but it fills your belly for a while, and that's all that matters. Alvarenga starts to joke about opening a turtle burger stand when you get home. You laugh. Kind of. It's more like a wheeze. Historians still argue whether it was luck, skill, or sheer physiological grit that helped certain castaways live longer than others. You wonder the same thing every time your stomach growls. Is this survival, or is this just very slow dying? And then come the jellyfish. Gorgeous, translucent things drifting around the boat. At first, they're mesmerizing. One floats past with electric blue veins, glowing like it belongs on another planet. Then one stings you. The pain is sharp and immediate. It lingers. Your leg goes numb for a full hour. Alvarenga jokes that you've gained a superpower. You don't laugh this time. Still, some things are starting to work in your favor. You've rigged a kind of makeshift fishing line using spare rope and a metal hook. It works about 1 in every 10 tries. But when it does, it's cause for celebration. You eat every part, the eyes, the skin, even the organs. Nothing is wasted. You've also figured out how to catch rain using your shirt stretched taut over the boat's edge. It pools just enough to sip. One morning, a seabird lands on the boat. A small one. Dumb. Really? It pecks at the side. Watching you, you hold your breath. Every nerve in your body lights up. You snatch it mid-peck, almost surprised by your own speed. You break its neck with a quick twist. Efficient. You pluck the feathers slowly, whispering sorry as you work. Later, while eating, Alvarenga names it Steve. Steve was crunchy. He says, "Poor Steve." You nod and lick your fingers. You try to keep track of the days, not for any useful reason, just for sanity. Alvarenga marks little notches on the inside of the hull with a nail. After a while, though, the notches blur together. Was that 3 weeks ago, or 4 one night? You think you see your mother standing on the water? She says nothing, just looks at you. You reach for her and nearly tip the boat. You wake up with a bruised arm and no mother in sight. The sun doesn't just burn, it cooks. Your skin splits in places. Your lips crack so deeply you taste blood every time you smile, which is rare now. You feel your ribs protruding more each week. Your toenails are turning odd colors. Alvarenga's hair has started to fall out in little clumps, and he laughs about it. Says he always hated his hair. You remind him he still has more than you. It's the closest you come to a joke that week. At night, the boat seems to disappear into the sea. No sound, just stars. Once, a meteor flashes overhead, slicing the sky in silence. You both gasp, as if the universe has dropped a breadcrumb for you. Make a wish, Alvarenga says. You close your eyes, but you don't wish for rescue. You wish for sleep without dreams. Mainstream fact for the night in 1942, the crew of the USS Indianapolis floated for 4 days after being torpedoed. Many were eaten by sharks. You think about that a lot, especially when you notice shadows circling the boat some afternoons. Big ones, smooth and silent. You don't talk about them. You just watch. One evening, after a long, strange silence, Alvarenga turns to you and says, "You think maybe we're already dead." His eyes are bloodshot. His lips move slowly, like he's drunk on heat. This could be it. Limbo. Maybe we just don't know yet. You tell him to shut up, but the idea stays with you, echoing in the lapping waves and creaking fiberglass. A pelican lands beside you the next morning. It stands there like royalty, staring, judging. You throw a fish at it, hoping it leaves. It doesn't. It just waddles to the bow and sits. Alvarenga names it Captain Crunch. You start narrating its orders like a deranged ship's crew. It keeps the mood light, sort of. And then one day you see a ship, far off, on the horizon. Big, slow. You scream. You wave your arms, your shirt, anything that catches light. You leap up and down until your knees buckle. The ship glides past. No change in course. No horn. No ripple of rescue. It vanishes behind the curve of the earth like it never existed. The silence afterward is suffocating. Alvarenga stares at the sky. You don't speak for the rest of the day. You eat in silence, sleep in silence. Even the ocean seems quieter. And yet, the boat keeps drifting, westward. Mostly, you don't know where exactly. But you feel it, something is changing. A shift in the wind, a smell in the air, maybe even land. Or maybe you're imagining it. You've done that before. Still, something tells you the sea isn't done with you yet. You're not sure what day it is now. Maybe day 50, day 60. The notches in the boat are starting to curve, trail into each other, like time has melted under the sun. Your beard is wild. Your eyes are sunken. You've both lost so much weight that your bones feel like they're wearing skin instead of the other way around. And honestly, you stopped caring a while back. But something's different now. Ezekiel, the kid who'd started this voyage with you, isn't doing well. He's been growing weaker every day. It started with dizziness, then vomiting, then silence. You watch as he stares blankly at the sky, lips cracked, muttering something you can't quite hear. Alvarenga keeps trying to talk to him, keep his spirits up. You try too. Tell him he'll get through this. But you know the signs. The dehydration is taking its toll. His body is giving up. And then, one morning, he doesn't wake up. You find him curled at the edge of the boat, one arm slung loosely over the side, like he just nodded off. His chest isn't moving. You check his pulse. Nothing. You sit there in the boat, next to his body, unable to speak. Alvarenga stares into the distance, jaw clenched. Neither of you says it, but both of you are thinking the same thing now. It's just one. Here's a disturbing but very real fringe tidbit. Some castaways throughout history have resorted to cannibalism. There's a long, grim list. The Essex, the Medusa, the Greeley expedition names soaked in that dark decision. But you and Alvarenga, you hesitate. You argue. You scream at each other. The body stays in the boat for days. The heat begins to change it. The smell is unbearable. And yet, hunger gnaws at your sanity. Eventually, Alvarenga does something that surprises even him. He talks to the body, pleads with it. "Forgive me," he whispers. You pretend not to hear. You curl up on the other side of the boat, hands over your ears. Later, he tells you he couldn't do it. Neither of you could. You push Ezekiel's body into the water. He floats a moment, then disappears, like he was never there. You don't talk much after that. But here's where the weirdness sets in. Something changes in you. A numbness settles. You begin to operate less like a man and more like a machine. Wake up, scan for fish, check the rain trap, watch the horizon, sleep, repeat. Alvarenga starts to narrate the days like a pirate. Captain's log, day infinity, rations terrible, mood angsty. You smile a little. Your sense of smell sharpens absurdly. You can now detect fish minutes before they breach the surface. When a seabird lands nearby, you hear the flapping like thunder. Your dreams become vivid, like alternate realities. In one, you're in a supermarket, touching every fruit, weeping over a single banana. In another, you're on a couch watching TV while someone behind you gently combs your hair. You wake up sobbing. One night, the sky breaks open again, rain, glorious rain. You drink until your stomach hurts. You bathe your face in it. Rub it into your scalp like it's shampoo. Alvarenga dances, literally dances in the boat. The air smells like ozone and old hope. You collect enough to last several days. It's a win, and you need one. Mainstream fact time during World War II's. Pilot Eddie Rickenbacker survived 24 days adrift in the Pacific by catching rain and fish. He also hallucinated that an angel was feeding him sugar cubes. Compared to that, you feel, well, almost sane. But let's be real, your skin is a map of suffering, cracked, bleeding in places, covered in boils from the sun. One of your toenails falls off. You wrap it in a sock that smells like death and call it good. Alvarenga starts talking to the sun like it's a rude neighbor. Stop staring at me, he yells one afternoon. You just nod. Your emotional connection with him grows stranger. You're not friends, not really, but you need each other. You fall into a rhythm, silent communication. A glance here, a shrug there. One day, he starts humming. It's an old song from home. You hum along without even realizing it. You find yourself thinking about things you never made time for before. Your dad's old jokes, that weird sandwich from the corner store, the last movie you saw, a woman you almost proposed to but didn't. Nostalgia seeps in through the cracks, soft and painful, and yet, every so often, there's beauty out here. One night, a school of dolphins appears beside your boat. They swim with you for hours, dipping in and out of the black water like silver bullets. You reach your hand into the ocean, and one brushes against your fingers. It feels like a dream. You laugh, and it doesn't feel forced. Not that night. Historians still argue whether prolonged isolation enhances or dulls a person's empathy. But you start to cry when a bird lands and flies away, like it was visiting and decided you weren't worth staying for. Then comes the typhoon. You sense it before it arrives. The air goes heavy. The water grows too still. And then, like a horror movie jump scare, the sky splits and the wind hits you sideways. Waves rise taller than buildings, dark green and cruel. The boat lifts, slams, lifts again. Rain lashes your face so hard it feels like glass shards. You lose your tarp. Your food container gets ripped out and flung overboard. You scream over the wind, clinging to the boat's edge. Alvarenga vomits. Lightning flashes. And for a moment, you see each other's faces hollow, wild-eyed, soaked to the bone. You both scream, whether from fear or fury. Who knows, the boat somehow doesn't capsize. You don't know how. It just doesn't. When the storm passes, the silence is louder than before. You count your blessings. 1, you're alive. 2, well, that's it. You're alive. But something drifts into view the next morning. A branch, then another. Then something floating like debris from a tree. Alvarenga points, shaking. That's from land. That's land stuff. You squint. He might be right. You smell something new in the air earth. Maybe wet leaves. You're not there yet, but something has shifted. Something is coming. By now, the sun isn't just something above you. It's a personality, a moody, relentless, judgmental presence that seems personally offended by your existence. You wake to it each morning like it's your boss at a job you didn't apply for. It scalds your face, mocks your fragile shade rig, and evaporates your optimism like dew on hot asphalt. Still, today feels different. Alvarenga is leaning over the boat's edge again, eyes fixed on the water, whispering. You crawl toward him slowly, joints creaking like a shipwreck. What is it, you rasp? He doesn't answer right away, just gestures with a trembling hand. You peer down, and there it is. Seaweed, floating clumps of it, a rusty green, tangled like hair left in a drain. Now, to most people, seaweed is something you complain about getting stuck in your swimsuit. But here it's a miracle, a sign, a giant neon billboard blinking land is near. And as the day drags on, that sign grows clearer. More debris drifts past twigs, a coconut husk, even what looks like an old flip-flop. You both stare at it like it's a message in a bottle. It's not elegant, it's not poetic, but it is exactly what you need to see. Then, just before sundown, Alvarenga yells, really yells. You spin, heart thumping, and there it is, faint, distant, a smudge on the horizon, land. You laugh, or maybe you cry. It's hard to tell. Alvarenga is already scrambling to adjust the sail well, what's left of it. You paddle with a broken plank, like your life depends on it. Because it does. The hours crawl. You don't sleep. You barely blink. Each wave that rises between you and that sliver of hope feels like a cruel joke. But gradually, it grows larger. The smudge becomes a hill, then trees, then actual color. The sky lightens. Dawn slides across the ocean, and you finally see it properly land. It's not a bustling port, no dock, no cheerful music, just a wild, untouched shore lined with jagged black rocks and thick brush. But it's solid. It's not water. That alone makes it paradise. Mainstream fact check: most castaways who survive more than a month at sea are rescued by ships, not landfall. You've beaten insane odds. And here's a fringe tidbit. In 1916, Ernest Shackleton sailed over 800 miles in an open boat across the South Atlantic and still had to hike across glaciers before finding help. You just crawling onto a beach. You tumble onto the shore like a rag doll. Alvarenga falls beside you. For a long time, you both just lie there, faces pressed to the earth. You clutch the sand like it's someone you love. You smell the trees, the dirt, the rot of fallen fruit. Even the ants crawling up your leg feel like welcome guests. You're back in the world. But now comes the next problem. You don't know where you are. There are no buildings, no smoke, no sound of engines or voices, just the crash of surf and the hum of insects. You can't even tell which country you've landed on. Alvarenga limps inland to scout, leaving you curled under a tree that looks like it might fall if you sneeze too hard. He returns a few hours later with news that's both hopeful and maddening. He saw a fence. A fence? That means people, civilization, or at least livestock. You're not alone, but also still very much lost. And now your body starts to process that it's not in survival mode anymore, which is when everything crashes. You vomit, you pass out, you wake up in a panic, not knowing where you are. You sleep for 10 hours straight, wake up, and sleep again. Alvarenga tries to make a fire, but collapses halfway through. Your body is saying, "Great job staying alive. Now I'm done." Eventually, a figure appears. At first, you think it's another hallucination. You blink and blink, but the figure keeps walking. A man, shirtless, dark-skinned, machete in hand. He looks as surprised to see you as you are to see him. He says something you don't understand. You try to reply, but your throat won't work. Alvarenga manages a hoarse ayu to help. The man disappears and returns later with others. More voices, more machetes, and finally a phone. Sweet, glorious, magical technology. They call someone, authorities. A boat arrives, then a helicopter. Your names are radioed out into the world. You find out later you've landed in Ebon Atoll, a tiny speck in the Marshall Islands. That's over 6,700 miles from where you started. Historians still debate how you drifted so precisely for so long without hitting anything or dying. Ocean currents, sheer luck, and stubborn human biology all played their part. But none of it feels real until you're in a hospital bed, hearing the beeping of machines instead of the slap of waves. The doctors marvel at your condition. Starved, dehydrated, sun-poisoned, but alive. They rehydrate you through IVs, feed you soft foods. Your stomach can't handle much yet. A nurse brings you a banana, and you cry for 10 minutes straight. Alvarenga gets a visit from a journalist. They want the exclusive. You're too weak to care. He tells the story, or at least the parts that don't make people squirm too much. They call it the longest survival at sea ever recorded. And you just sleep, dream, eat, sleep again. But things don't go back to normal. Not really. Not for a long time. You start seeing ocean patterns on ceilings. You wake in the middle of the night, swearing you're drifting again. When you walk down streets back home, the cement feels unreal too still. You eye grocery store fish with suspicion. When it rains, you cry. When it's sunny, you flinch. They ask if you're going to write a book. You laugh. At night, when things are quiet, you still hear the waves, still feel the sunburn, still remember Ezekiel's face. You talk to Alvarenga now and then. Not often, just enough. You don't need words to understand what you both went through. You're alive, but something else is on the horizon. Something you haven't faced yet. And it's not the ocean this time. You wake in a real bed for the first time in almost a year and a half. Sheets, actual clean sheets, brush against your skin, and they feel alien, too soft, too crisp. The ceiling doesn't move, the floor doesn't rock, but your stomach still lurches with phantom waves. There's a knock at the door. It opens before you can answer. A doctor enters, clipboard in hand, and behind him, journalists, cameras, microphones. People already smell a story, because 484 days, that's not just survival, that's myth. That's longer than Shackleton's entire expedition, longer than the Donner Party lasted, longer than Robinson Crusoe stayed fictional. You sit up, clutching the blanket. You want to speak, but your voice still sounds like sandpaper. The doctor answers a few questions, and then, all at once, they turn to you. How did you do it? One asks. What was it like? You blink. The room spins a little. You're not ready to be a story. Not yet. Alvarenga steps in, his beard's gone, but he still has the eyes of a man who's stared too long at nothing. He speaks for both of you. He tells them the basics, the storm, the boat, the drift, the death, the survival. He doesn't mention the hallucinations, the breakdowns, the desperate prayers screamed at nothing. But you remember Ezekiel Cordoba, his slow withdrawal, the way he stopped eating. You remember the pact: if one of you died, the other would keep going. But you also remember the cold weight of his body beside you for days, the arguments in your head about what to do, the lines you crossed to survive, the lines you pretend you didn't. There are whispers already, rumors. Did he eat the other man? Some ask. Did he kill him? You want to scream. Instead, you sit there as Alvarenga fields the questions like a lawyer at trial. Eventually, the journalists leave, but the storm doesn't. See, surviving the sea is one thing. Surviving society after the sea, entirely different. You're flown home El Salvador. Your family is waiting. Cameras are everywhere. It should feel like victory. But when your mother hugs you, her warmth feels too much, too human. You're not used to bodies anymore. You flinch at every noise. When a door slams, you jump. When a dog barks, you instinctively reach for a non-existent oar. Alvarenga fades into the background. He retreats to Mexico, to the shadows of the story he doesn't want to tell anymore. You keep in touch, but something has changed. You've drifted apart, this time on land. Still, the story follows you. Reporters call, schools ask you to speak, TV stations invite you. One even pitches a documentary. You say yes, but when the cameras turn on, you freeze. The words don't come easily. And then, one day, you get a letter. It's from Cordoba's family. It's not pleasant. They want answers. They want the truth. Some of them don't believe he died of natural causes. They've heard the rumors, the radio chatter, the internet theories. They think maybe, just maybe, you made a choice to live, one that involved your friend's body. Historians still argue whether cannibalism occurred in this case. There's no evidence, no confession, just a suspicious amount of silence, and a survivor who's understandably evasive. You deny it, of course, publicly, repeatedly. You swear Ezekiel died naturally, and that you respected his body. But the questions won't stop. They never do. And part of you, some small, quiet corner, wonders if the truth even matters anymore. People want legends, not nuance. Survivors are supposed to be either heroes or monsters, not messy humans with blurry lines. One night, you sit alone in your room. There's a storm outside. The thunder cracks like sails snapping in a hurricane. You light a candle just for the soft flicker, and then you hear it, a knock, but not on your door. In your memory, you're back on the boat. Alvarenga is asleep. Ezekiel is lying beside you, still, so still, and the hunger is an animal now clawing, howling, snarling in your gut. The fish are gone. The turtles have stopped showing up. You're weeks past the point of desperation. You remember lifting his hand, cold, heavy. You remember not looking at his face, just deciding, and then you snap out of it. The candle flickers. You're home. You tell yourself again it wasn't like that. It didn't happen. You whisper it like a prayer. But even now, you wonder who you are, what you've become. Because here's something no one tells you about surviving: it doesn't stop. The trauma echoes. The sea stays with you. And sometimes you miss it. You miss the simplicity, the silence, the freedom of only needing to survive, not explain. Mainstream fact check Alvarenga did pass multiple polygraphs and psychological evaluations. No conclusive evidence of wrongdoing was found, but polygraphs notoriously unreliable. Fringe detail. There's a whole community online convinced he discovered some miracle survival method and isn't sharing it. Coconut conspiracy forums, solar dehydration cults, you name it. But you know the truth. There was no miracle, just madness, luck, and a lot of dead fish. Still, the weight of public doubt never lifts completely. You walk through your hometown like a ghost. Some people hug you, others look away. Some whisper, some smile too widely, as if trying to fix you with their cheer. And then, an unexpected twist. You're invited to a wellness conference, a big one. A tech billionaire wants you to speak, not about the trauma, but about resilience. You laugh when you read the email, but you go on stage. You look out over a sea of well-fed faces, holding smoothies and notebooks. You tell your story, the safe version. You mention the storm, the drift, the miraculous landing. You skip the madness, the hallucinations, the pact with a corpse. Afterward, people shake your hand. One woman cries. Another man calls you a modern Odysseus. You smile, nod, thank them, but deep down you know Odysseus never had to face a lawsuit. You stare at the subpoena like it's another shark fin rising from calm water. No blood this time, but it still smells of threat. Cordoba's family has made their move. They're not asking anymore, they're accusing. Manslaughter. The documents read, and beneath that, the grimmer phrase, cannibalism under duress. You exhale slowly, somewhere, far off. A bird sings. Your coffee goes cold. So here it is. The final chapter the sea never wrote. Delivered by lawyers in suits who've never eaten raw turtle liver at dawn. You call Alvarenga. No answer. Again, still nothing. So you go alone. Courtrooms are just another kind of ocean. Really. Quiet but dangerous. Everyone's watching. Everyone's waiting for a slip. The judge looks bored. The prosecutor looks hungry. And you look like a man who's aged too fast. They bring in experts, forensic psychiatrists, oceanographers, a nutritionist who says, yes, a man could survive on rainwater, raw fish, and turtle blood for over a year. Then another who raises an eyebrow and says, but not without immense psychological consequences. They read out excerpts from your old statements, the ones you barely remembered giving. They say your timeline has inconsistencies, that your memory seems convenient. You want to scream that memory is a joke after that much sun, that much fear, that much loneliness. But you stay still. You watch Cordoba's mother cry on the stand. You look down. Historians still argue whether this was a case of justice seeking truth, or grief lashing out with what little power it had left. Some say it was about closure. Others say it was revenge. Either way, it's heavy. The trial drags on. Journalists camp outside. People pick sides. Social media explodes with hot takes. You're a trending hashtag. Again, one afternoon, on a break from the courtroom, you sit in a cheap diner. Someone slides into the booth across from you. Alvarenga. His hair's longer. His eyes are the same. He doesn't say hello. Just, I didn't want to be here. You nod. I thought we agreed never to talk about that. Another nod. But then he sighs, and he says something you don't expect. I kept his Bible. You blink. It washed up one morning. He continues. Pages stuck together. I kept it in a plastic bag. Read it when things got bad. You remember that Bible. Small, blue. Ezekiel used to whisper over it before bed, even when bed was just a piece of tarp and a prayer. Do you think? Alvarenga asks softly. That makes us good men. You don't answer, because the truth is, you don't know anymore. Back in court, the lawyers argue one last point timeline of death. The prosecutor says Cordoba died too early for Alvarenga to survive, without extraordinary measures. The defense calls it slander. The judge listens, frowns, takes notes. The verdict comes on a gray morning, with clouds like bruises. Not guilty. The judge rules there's not enough evidence to prove wrongdoing. No body, no forensic data, just speculation and suffering. But even as you walk out a free man, the whispers don't stop. Got away with it. Luckiest murderer alive. You smile politely, then disappear. Alvarenga does too. He goes to a village inland, somewhere near the mountains, opens a small workshop, repairs fishing nets, doesn't give interviews. You send letters sometimes. He answers rarely. As for you, you find yourself haunted, not just by the sea, but by land. Grocery stores feel surreal. Choices overwhelm you. You watch people throw away food and feel something tighten in your chest. Once, at a barbecue, someone throws out an untouched plate of steak and you nearly vomit because food, real food, still feels like a miracle. Or a lie. You start sleeping in a hammock, not a bed. The sway helps. You keep a bucket of water by your door, just in case. You collect rain in old coffee cans during storms, not because you need to, just because it feels right. One morning, while walking through a local market, a boy tugs at your sleeve. You're the ocean man, he says, wide-eyed. My dad says you were gone longer than anyone. You smile weakly. I came back. He grins. Did you bring back treasure? You laugh. For real this time. Shake your head. Just a lot of stories. And you do tell them. Sometimes. Carefully. Selectively. Schools. Mostly. Churches. You skip the worst parts. Of course, no one wants to hear about lice in your eyelashes or dreams of eating your own fingers. You tell them about the stars, how they looked from the middle of nowhere, about the birds that followed you, about the island that looked fake until it wasn't. You tell them about hope, the kind that gets louder when there's nothing left. One evening, after a talk at a small community center, a man comes up and offers you a seashell, big, pink, spiraled, says it's from the coast of Chile. You ever think about going back, he asks. You don't answer right away. But later that night, you lie in your hammock and listen to the shell, not for the ocean, for the silence behind it, that blank hum where memory sleeps. Quirky fact. A group of ocean survival hobbyists once recreated part of your diet: raw bird meat, turtle fat, sun-dried fish jerky, and declared it nutritionally sustainable but profoundly depressing. No kidding. You keep the shell on your desk. Sometimes you whisper into it. Not prayers, not secrets, just thank you for Cordoba, for storms survived, for still being here. You stop marking the anniversary. At first, you tried, bought a candle, took a walk, sat by the sea, trying to feel something poetic or redemptive. Instead, you just felt sunburned and awkward. The ocean didn't look mystical. It looked like it wanted you back. So now, the date passes like any other, quiet, undisturbed, just a weird little flicker in your stomach as the calendar flips. But sometimes, on random Tuesdays, or when the clouds come in strange patterns, you find yourself drifting. Like today, you're on a train, heading inland to visit a friend. Nothing fancy, just an old buddy from school who never asked about that time in your life. The landscape rushes by, fields blurring into hills, into forests. The rhythm of the wheels is oddly familiar. You realize it sounds like waves, and suddenly you're gone, back to the boat, to the stink of salt and fish guts, to the drone of wind that never dies down, to the ritual of checking traps every morning, even when you knew they'd be empty, to drawing tally marks with a fishbone on the side of the hull. You never got past 3 weeks before rain or waves erased them, and to the worst part, those moments of total silence. No birds, no breeze, just you and the sun and the throb in your head. You used to talk to clouds just to hear a voice. You blink. The train stopped. You missed your station. You laugh softly. Of course you did. You ride to the end of the line just to sit a little longer because land still doesn't feel like home. Historians still debate how much of your story was shaped by memory's warping lens. Trauma messes with time. It compresses some parts, stretches others. You remember a fish flopping violently for hours, but maybe it was minutes. You remember a conversation about your favorite childhood TV show that somehow went on for 2 days, but maybe it was all in your head. One fringe podcast once suggested you and Alvarenga might have wanted to stay lost. That there's a psychological state, oceanic dissociation, where the mind detaches in extreme survival. It's real, documented. The sea becomes your parent, your god, your coffin. Some don't want to be rescued. You scoffed at first, but now you get it. Because sometimes, under fluorescent lights and clean ceilings, you miss the way the stars felt in open air, how they didn't blink, how they didn't lie. You arrive in the small town. Your friend picks you up, cheerful as ever. You sit on their porch, sipping lemonade that tastes too sweet, and you listen. You don't talk much. You just exist. Later, they ask, "Do you think you'll ever go back on a boat?" You shake your head, slowly, not without a motor. But the truth is, you already do. Every time you close your eyes, every time you hear the hum of a distant fan, every time hunger hits at the wrong hour and your stomach panics like it remembers the long days of nothing, you're back there. You once read that our bodies regenerate nearly all their cells every 7 to 10 years, that eventually, physically, we become someone entirely new. But you don't feel new. You feel like a ghost of the man who stepped onto that fishing boat. And yet, somehow, people still expect wisdom from you, a survivor's glow, the Instagram-worthy redemption arc. But you didn't write a book. You didn't launch a brand, no TED Talk, just quietly rebuilding your life in uneven pieces. Still, you try. You volunteer at a maritime safety center. You teach kids how to use a compass. You insist they pack double the water, triple the flares. You smile when they call you captain. One kid, bold and honest, asks, "Did you cry a lot?" You nod, "Yes." Even when I didn't have the tears. Emotionally immersive moment. One night, during those long months at sea, you had a dream of home. You could smell your mother's stew, the kind with cassava and garlic and too much pepper. You could hear the rustle of your sister's radio in the next room. For a full minute, you believed it, reached for the spoon in your dream. Then you woke up to brine and rot and a cracked lip that bled into your mouth. That was the worst morning. Worse than the storm. Worse than Cordoba's final day, because it reminded you of everything you'd lost. And yet, you kept going. Sensory detail once, after a heavy rain, you smelled something green on the boat, like grass, or moss, or maybe just fresh air from the mainland. It was faint, delicate. You wept at the scent. Today, you keep a garden, basil, cilantro, mint. You bend down each morning and inhale deeply, just to remind yourself you're here, that this is real. Sometimes, though, you still see him, Cordoba, not as a ghost, not angry, just sitting beside you, legs swinging off the edge of the boat. He never says anything, just stares into the distance. You ask him, "Did we do right?" He never answers, but he doesn't leave either. That's something, you suppose. Cliffhanger one day, while walking through a port town, you see a familiar figure on the dock. Same shoulders, same walk. You call out. He doesn't turn around, but the way he moves, exactly like Alvarenga, and you realize you haven't heard from him in months. You don't call him, not right away. You let the moment pass like a drifting buoy, half curious, half afraid of what you might find. Maybe it was him, maybe not. Either way, silence feels safer than opening a door you might not be able to close. But the thought lingers, and so, weeks later, you write a letter, not a message, because typing feels too modern, too sterile. Ink means something. It stains your fingers, smells like memory. You keep it short. Hope you're well. Saw someone at the docks who walked like you. Just wanted to say I was thinking about you. Yes, you send it to the old address. No clue if it'll get there. Maybe he's moved on. Maybe he's off the grid again. Or maybe, like you, he lives on the border between forgetting and remembering. Days go by. Nothing. Weeks. Still nothing. Then a postcard. A faded photo of a beach. No name. No message. Just a smudge of blue ink on the back. But you know, he's alive. Historians still debate whether long-term survival like yours is more luck or mindset. Some say it's sheer biology metabolism, body fat, hydration levels. Others argue it's all about mental elasticity, the capacity to shape one's mind to the wild, to let go of clocks and calendars and accept that a day is just a stretch of light between hunger and darkness. You're not sure where you land on that debate, because in the end, you didn't survive because you had hope. Some days you didn't. You survived because your body kept going, even when your brain gave up. And maybe that's what people don't understand sometimes. Survival is boring, monotonous, ugly. It's not about heroic endurance. It's about waking up one more time than you expected to. Quirky tidbit. There's a little restaurant on the coast of El Salvador now that serves a dish named after you, Sopa del Naufrago Shipwreck Soup. It's basically turtle broth with floating plantains. Morbid maybe, but oddly comforting. You tried it once, it wasn't terrible. You lean into your life now, slowly. You take long walks. You fish from piers never far from shore. You write occasionally, but mostly for yourself, not to explain the past, just to put it somewhere other than your bones. One afternoon, you get invited to a high school's career day. You laugh at first, thinking, what career is that lost at sea specialist? But you go. You tell the kids what they expect at first. The dramatic bits, the raft, the rainwater, the fish jerky. They gasp. They whisper. But then you tell them something else. That the hardest part wasn't the sharks or the starvation. It was coming back. Coming back to a world that no longer matches your pace. Where people get annoyed about slow Wi-Fi or panic over a missing phone charger. You tell them you sometimes sit in the shower just to remember what it feels like to be surrounded by clean water. You watch their faces change, not pity, just understanding. And maybe that's enough. You get letters now from strangers, survivors of other things, cancer, war, heartbreak. They say your story helped them keep going, that it made them feel less alone. You keep every letter, even the weird ones, especially the weird ones, because the world is weird. It always has been. You just didn't notice until the ocean stripped everything else away. Emotionally immersive moment. You once had a dream where the boat was full again. Not just you and Cordoba, but people from every stage of your life. Your mother, your old dog, your teacher from first grade, all of them sitting quietly, watching the waves, offering you fruit. None of them speak, but you wake up crying. Not because it was sad, but because it felt like home. You wake up from that dream often. The sea still lives in your skin, in the creases of your hands, in the way your shoulders tense when a storm rolls in the quiet moments when you find yourself tracing constellations without meaning to, and on your bookshelf now sits a single object, the red plastic cooler. Not the original. That one is gone, swept away, or lost in some government facility. Maybe, but a replica someone sent you. Inside, it's empty, but sometimes you open it and stare inside anyway, as if memory might crawl out. Cliffhanger one morning. You get a call from a radio station in Tokyo. They're producing a special on modern castaways. They ask if you'd be willing to come, share your story live. All expenses paid. You hesitate, because maybe the story isn't done, and maybe telling it again will bring it full circle, or maybe it'll just hurt. You tell them you'll think about it. You hang up and stare at the sea. So now, you lie back in bed, the soft hum of the fan brushing past your ears like a distant breeze off the Pacific. The lights are dim, the room is still, but your mind drifts gently, still riding the waves of the story we just sailed together. Picture it one last time, that tiny boat, rocking gently under the moon. A man curled in the corner, wrapped in a tarp, dreaming of stew and stars and solid ground. Somewhere nearby, a seagull calls, and rain patters softly on the hull. The ocean doesn't roar tonight, it whispers, because even the wildest storms grow quiet eventually. Let your body sink into the mattress, limbs loose, breath slow. You are not on a boat. You are not surrounded by water. You are safe. You are still. The only thing adrift now is your imagination. There's no more need to fight the tide. Just let go. Let the waves pull back. Let the salt air fade. Let the stars fold themselves into dreams. You made it through the storm, just like they did. And now, it's time to rest. The story is over. See you tomorrow night. Sweet dreams.